Well, hello once again all my YouTube browsers and subscribers, and welcome back once more to my dirt bike YouTube channel. Now in this particular video we're going to take a look at those classic Twinport CZ dirt bikes. Now we do have one or two examples of those iconic Czechoslovakian machines, so let's get right underway with our first machine. Now this lovely bike belongs to Scottish rider Kenny Harper. Now Kenny normally rides Spanish Bultacos and has just recently purchased this very nice Twinport 360 CZ. Now when I first took these video clips and pictures, this was the bike's first ever outing on the racetrack. Now you can see Kenny on the right hand side here discussing his new bike with another Twinport CZ fanatic, Stewart Riddle. So as I said earlier, this is a brand new venture for Kenny, as during the last few years Kenny has been riding a pair of lovely Bultaco Pursangs as his normal race bikes. So this little CZ will be something Kenny will be looking forward to trying on the track for the first time. Now of course the bike is not an original machine by any stretch of the imagination, but nowadays you can buy lots of modern tricked up parts for these classic CZ machines. Now of course this is a 360 CZ motor with the twin exhaust pipes at the front, and rather than have the two exhausts go into tailpipes at either side of the chassis, Kenny's bike here has had the conversion for the twin pipes to go into a single tailpipe at the rear, which is quite a modern type improvement for these old classic CZs. But nevertheless it's still a very nice looking Czechoslovakian CZ machine, although there are a few modern parts fitted to this bike. As you can see, the triple clamps are not the originals, and the throttle gasser has been replaced with a modern improved version. Now also, as you can see here, Kenny has fitted one of these new gear shifter mechanisms which eliminate the long throw of the shifter, which was a bit of a pain for most riders back in the day, but these modern gear shifter mechanisms really do make a difference to these classic machines. So there you have it, that's our first Twinport 360 CZ machine. That's Kenny Harper's very nice CZ. Okay, next up it's the turn of Stevie Shaw with his 250 Twinport CZ. Now of course Stevie's particular bike here is more akin to these old classic Twinport CZ machines, with the twin header exhaust pipes going into those lovely chrome plated twin silencers down each side of the chassis. Now Kenny of course has still fitted the old original Chekhov carburetor to his particular bike. A very nice looking original machine, this bike of Stevie's, and if you compare this to all the modern parts and tricked up parts that were fitted to Kenny Harper's machine, this bike is more in line with the nature of the classic racing CZs. Now this of course is just one of the bikes that Stevie has in his racing collection. This is Stevie's #1 race bike. He also has a 400 cross Husqvarna, which he uses as a backup bike should anything happen to his beloved Twinport. Now this is the same bike but at a different race event. Stevie seems to have added these silencer tailpipes to the back of the exhausts for some strange reason, possibly to quieten the bike down a bit, but they do look very strange on those long exhaust tailpipes. A very nice steel fuel tank on this particular bike, but of course no modern parts on Stevie's bike. A very nice original example of a 250 Twinport CZ. Still has all the original brake pedals and carburetor still fitted, although it looks like Stevie has fitted a replacement ignition cover over the flywheel. Now you can just about see the dings and dents that these header pipes suffer during a race event. A few dings and dents with these very low slung twin exhaust pipes. But nevertheless, an original and very nice example of a Twinport CZ. That's Stevie Shaw's 250. Now this is a bike that needs no introduction whatsoever, as I have already featured this machine on my YouTube channel. This of course is Stewart Riddell's beautiful 1965 250 Twinport. Now although this is a fantastic looking little machine and very original, Stewart of course never received this bike in this condition when he first bought it. This was the condition of the bike when Stewart first purchased the bike, and Stewart was very happy to take this machine off the seller's hands, because Stewart was going to do a full restoration project on this very scruffy looking machine. Now of course when Stewart first purchased this bike, he completely dismantled it and did a complete nut and bolt restoration on the bike and had it looking absolutely stunning. Now the bike was also featured in the Classic Dirt Bike magazine some years ago, and you can see why, because it's an absolutely beautiful little bike with absolutely no modern parts whatsoever on this little machine. Now many of the parts used in this bike's restoration came direct from the Czech Republic, so Stewart knew immediately that the parts he was buying for this bike were 100% authentic, and Stewart has done a fantastic job restoring this lovely piece of Czechoslovakian history. Now Joe Roberts won the 250 Motocross World Championship on one of these bikes in 1964, and he did it again in 1965, the year this bike was made. Now of course Joe Roberts was always famous for making use of this clutch operating arm on the top of the motor, because Joe would hook the heel of his boot in this arm so he could hold the clutch disengaged at the start line, so that it would leave his hands free of the clutch lever when they used to do the left hand on the helmet starts. Now of course many other famous riders used these Twinport machines as their chosen race bike, and with the likes of Russian Viktor Arbokov and British rider Dave Bickers, who all rode these Czechoslovakian Twinport machines. They must have been a very decent ride for these guys, for them to use these bikes in top class race events. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, these old CZs had fiberglass tanks at the time, and nowadays these old fiberglass tanks don't take too kindly to modern day fuels and tend to eat away at the inside of the tank if you leave the fuel inside the tank for long periods at a time. Now, these CZ Twinport bikes were well renowned as an early exotic race machine. Now, the 250 and 360 bikes really took the motocross world by storm with the new high quality metals that they were manufactured from. Now, of course, these CZs used lots of magnesium in many of their components, which were mainly the drum brakes, the hubs, and of course magnesium was used in many of these bikes' engine casings. Now, of course, the magnesium was used to try and keep the overall weight down, and of course to make the bikes much easier to throw around. But despite all that, these CZ machines were stunning looking bikes in their day, and with these low slung twin exhaust pipes, they were very easily recognisable with their peanut shaped fuel tanks as well. But Stewart has made a fantastic job of the restoration of this 1965 250, and it's a very, very quick little bike on the track as well, because I've actually seen this bike in action firsthand, and it's a very fast little machine. But it's a good credit to Stewart for making such a fantastic job of this 1965 Twinport 250. Okay, next up, these are a couple of very nice Twinport CZs that I managed to pick up at the Classic Motocross The Nations in Reading in the UK in 2015. Now, these were examples of some of the Czechoslovakian riders who had came over to race at this event, and of course naturally they had some very nice examples of these CZ machines with them. Now, whether this green colour is a standard colour for these Czechoslovakian machines, I'm not exactly sure, but it's certainly something different from the normal colours of CZ that we normally see in this country. But nevertheless, they're still very nice bikes, and these also had one or two little modern trick parts fitted to them, including this modern exhaust tailpipe. Now, I'm almost certain that this is a 360 Twinport model, and the Czechoslovakian team brought over some very nice examples of these CZ machines, and this one was also another one of these Twinport into the single exhaust pipe at the rear, which seemed to be the way to go with these old CZ bikes, rather than have the low slung twin pipes at either side of the chassis. A more modern style wide set of foot pegs on this particular bike to replace the very narrow originals on the CZ. And as you can see in the background there, a very nice collection of Jawa and CZ bikes. Now I did try and engage the Czechoslovakian race team in conversation about their bikes, but there was a bit of a language barrier. They couldn't understand my Scottish accent, and I almost certainly couldn't understand their Czechoslovakian dialect. Now this was another machine that the Czechs guys brought along. As you can see, another beautiful example of these CZ machines. Not an original bike, of course, but nevertheless very beautiful looking machine. Once again, the twin port into the single exhaust system. It looks like this is Mr. Kozak's machine. Still using the original Jakov carburetor on this what looks like a 360 bike. A few more modern replacements on this bike with that alloy brake lever and another set of those wide, very comfortable foot pegs. Now, of course, the Czechoslovakian team not only had a nice collection of these twin port CZ machines, they had a very good collection of single pipe CZ machines, and these are just a few of the twin port examples that we managed to catch on the day. But of course these bikes were very quick over the weekend of the 2 days of the classic MXDN in Reading in 2015, and it was great to watch these CZ bikes strutting their stuff on the track. So that's just a couple of examples from the Czechoslovakian race team at the MXDN in Reading in 2015. Okay, our final bike in this Twinport CZ video, we're going to look at a couple of examples from Glenn Davey. Now, Glenn is a well-renowned and respected rider from the south of the country, and these pictures and video were taken at the Classic Motocross the Nation in Northern Ireland in 2016. Now we're looking at one of Glenn's beautiful Twinport 250 CZs. Now of course Glenn switched between his 250 and his 360 Twinport bike, and he was very quick on both these bikes, but as far as I'm led to believe, Glenn no longer races motocross, but when he was on the track, he was quite unbeatable on his day. But as you can see here, Glenn had a lovely pair of Twinport CZs, and both bikes look as near as damn it to the original design from back in the day. And Glenn always maintained these bikes to a very high standard, and I'm sure his father did a lot of the spanner work on these bikes on the day, and as you can see, these are immaculately turned out Glenn's lovely Twinport machines. Now these Twinport CZs are becoming very rare on the classic and vintage racetracks in the UK, and to have an example such as this one from Glenn Davey and one of our previous bikes by Stuart Riddle, to have these original examples are very rare, and if you have one of these lovely bikes in your workshop, then please keep a hold of it. Okay, this is Glenn's second machine. This of course is a 360 Twinport model. Now once again, of course, this one is another original authentic machine with the twin pipes going into the twin silencers down either side of the bike. Now I think there is one or two exchange parts on this bike. Looks like Glenn has fitted a new gear shifter and possibly kickstart lever, but that is just normal run-of-the-mill maintenance on these bikes. But once again, Glenn's 360 bike still has all the original CZ hubs and levers and forks, etc. The old Chekhov standard Czechoslovakian carburetor still fitted to this lovely 360 Twinport machine. But nevertheless, if you get one of these original looking CZ machines from back in the day, they are fantastic old bikes to look at. And if you get an original example like this one of Glenn's, they are absolutely superb looking little machines. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this very brief look at some of these old classic Czechoslovakian Twinport CZ machines. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to see more of these fantastic classic dirt bikes. This video was brought to you in association with WorldSport, the world's #1 supplier for all your off-road and leisure sportswear. Just visit their online website for more details.